In our first example, we have a division problem with fractions. And if you remember from last year, when we divide fractions, we actually have to change these to improper fractions. And then we also have to multiply by the reciprocal. We never really just divide. So in the very first thing we're going to try to do is estimate. And that will give us a good idea. So negative 5 divided in half would be negative 2.5 approximately. So we do know because we have a negative and a positive, it will be negative. So let's go and try this. 5.5 divided by 2 1/3 is the same as 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is negative 26 fifths. That comes from here. Multiply and add the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, so we have 7/3. So we rewrite them as improper fractions. After that, we go ahead and multiply them by the numerator or by the reciprocal. So we take this, change it to multiplication, and flip this to 3/7. Now, usually you could take a look at them and see if you could reduce early, but I'm not saying that you can with 7 and 5 and 3 all being prime. So we're done except for multiplying across. So 26 times 3 is 78, and 7 times 5 is 35. Being improper, we do have to change it back to a mixed number. So 35 goes in there twice for 70 with 8 left over. And I cannot divide these by 2, 3, or 5, so I am going to call myself finished on that one. A negative 2 and 8/35 because I have one positive and one negative. So a second example that I can show you is actually multiplying decimals. In multiplying decimals, I do have one of each, so my answer will be negative. And so I'm going to multiply like normal. 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3, put the 0 down. 6 times 2 is 12, plus the 3 is 15. And I put a 0 down because this is like 30, not 3. So I do 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, and grab that 1 is 7. Add these up, and I count how many places are in the decimal, 2 of them. And so 1, 2, and I have 2 different signs, so it's negative. So your answer is negative 9. Product is answer to a multiplication problem. And then our third example is when we have a couple of things combined at once. When you have multiplication 3 ways, we can actually use the properties of multiplication to make the product easier to find. So what I would do is take negative 1/7 and 7 and multiply them first, because you can multiply in any order when you have 3 numbers to multiply. When I do that, I'm going to narrow that down to 7 over 1 and 1 over 7, which will be negative 1. Or they're both negative, sorry, so it becomes positive 1. And 1 times 1/4, anything times 1 is 4 is itself. So it becomes 4/5. So I could actually say these two make 1, and 1 times 4/5 is 4/5. So your answer is 4/5. Keeping in mind all these properties, the commutative says I can switch two numbers around in an order so that I can have them closer together. Associative says I can multiply 3 numbers in any order. And inverse says that I'm multiplying by 1, so it's the same thing. So if you think you understand these, you can take the quiz on the next page to try some on your own.